So the legal case, let's talk about that a little bit. What became protected there wasn't vegan products or dietary preference or anything like that, but ethical veganism as a philosophical belief. And correct me if I'm wrong, but also just tell us the story.
Yeah, what it become protected is basically holding that belief. So basically the belief that many people might have, some of them by law in different jurisdictions are protected or not. That means if you hold that belief, you cannot be discriminated or harassed for that belief. And yet you call different terms. In the US, you call it protected classes. In the UK, we call it protected characteristics. But it's the same thing. You have one of those, you cannot be discriminated against that. So veganism in the UK has become a protected characteristic under the Equality Act 2010, which means it's as protected that will be gender, sexual orientation, religion, marital status, all those protected characteristics that tend to be quite similar in different countries. Now in the UK, we added ethical veganism, particularly ethical veganism, with this word, which is a kind of a legal term, in a way to prevent what you were asking me before, to prevent the word vegan to be used in a too wide sense. So the term ethical vegan has now officially in the UK been defined as following the official definition of veganism of the Vegan Society, those who created the word vegan in 1944, and the definition took them decades. They finalized it in 1988. That definition, if you follow that philosophy in that definition, you're officially regarded in the UK as an ethical vegan, and therefore it becomes illegal and lawful to discriminate against you because of that, to harass against you because of that, to victimize you because of that, in the work relationship, in public and private services, in landlord tenant relationships. It really embraces a huge amount of human interaction where discrimination might occur. And you're right, it is the only jurisdiction in the world so far that has reached that level of protection. And that happened in the UK by, I would not say by chance, because veganism has been quite advanced in the UK compared with other countries. I'm not surprised the UK is the first one who did this, because again, the Vegan Society was created here, the word vegan was created here. Even if veganism wasn't invented here, there were vegans millennia ago, the words were created. So it's not surprising that we're advancing in that regard. But I didn't expect that I was going to be involved in this, because it happened to be by chance. I was fired for being a vegan. And I was working in an animal welfare organization, which of course, I've been a vegan in an animal welfare as opposed to animal rights organization. Doesn't mean that that's not that surprising to me that vegans are seen sometimes as a bit of a radical, even within animal welfare organizations. So in my case, I've worked in many animal welfare organizations. I've always been the odd one, the vegan one, the more radical one. But in this case, I didn't expect that would lead me to be fired. And I was fired because what happens is I discovered that the pension fund I was auto-enrolled to, in the UK, there is a law that says if you join any organization, you have to be auto-enrolled into a pension fund selected by the employer. You have a state fund too, but then in addition to that state fund, you need to have extra money from a private fund, and that has to be chosen by the employer, by law. So when I checked the one that I was assigned to by the employer, I realized it was one of the worst possible pension funds. It was investing in vivisection companies, pharmaceutical companies, gas and petrol companies, tobacco companies, the worst possible ones. And I could not believe that animal protection organization had chosen that particular one where there were others that had the label ethical in there that didn't do any of that. So I complained. And they said, well, we'll change it, don't worry. And I kept complaining that they didn't change it. I said, well, I don't want any percentage of my salary going to that. And they put it anyway. And because I didn't drop it after a year of pushing, I was fired. And then I realized, well, I had no choice. As a vegan, I had to find any option that minimizes my contribution to animal exploitation. There are pension funds that they don't have these companies. So that's an option. I should pursue this. I have no choice. And I realized I've been fired without having any choice because I'm a vegan. Then I approached a lawyer. I said, look, I think I'm being fired because I'm a vegan. That must be unlawful, really. He said, well, not really. So veganism is not a protected class or characteristic yet, but it can be, because the Equality Act has a clause that says philosophical beliefs, which means non-religious beliefs, can also be protected if you follow a procedure process in which you have to show that belief, and the judge have to look at a series of characteristics, and if they fulfill them all, this belief fulfills them all, then the judge will declare that belief protected. If not, he will reject it. and nobody had done veganism before. So I was trying to be the first. So the whole responsibility on my shoulders. If he rejects it, all the vegans will hate me forever because will not be protected forever. But if I'm successful, I will help all the vegans. If I help all the vegan cause, and because the more protected you are, the more you can express your veganism and fight for the animals. So I decided to go for it. I asked the lawyer, how much you charge me? And I realized I could not afford it. And that's where I had to crowdfund. I had to take 2 years of fighting for this. The litigation took 2 years. And eventually I was successful. But the saga was so long and movie-like that I wrote a book called Ethical Vegan to explain how I did it. So because it was like a thriller. But I exploited the end because I was successful. Veganism in 2020, January 2020, became a protected philosophical belief under the Quality Act 2010.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that's
I just want to
incredible.
mention for people listening who are in the US, there is a similar principle in law. And I think it has been pursued, but never, as in your case, did it result in a published decision that people can follow, or if so, very lower courts. But it does exist. And I know that people have argued it in prison cases, for example, like saying that people are entitled to vegan food, various kinds of situations in which it might become relevant. Yours is certainly a very unusual one. But I just, not to hijack the conversation, but I just wanted people to know that that's not exclusively a UK principle. It is also a principle under US constitutional law.
You're right. And many people from many countries have contacted me since. In fact, the publicity of my case was so huge because really the issue is relevant everywhere. Veganism is the same concept everywhere, and there's some sort of equality law in most places. So the point is when it will happen in other places. So many countries approached me, many people in similar situations. I just for advice how I did it. So obviously my evidence is available to everyone. I produced more than 1,200 pages of evidence. Many of it can be used in other cases. And there have been legal successes in other cases. There was somebody in Bologna in Italy. Regionally, there was a problem with a teacher that she was vegan. And the law in Bologna says that vegan pupils have the right to have vegan meals at the school, state-run schools, but not the teachers. And then she felt discriminated. She took this official education system to court, used my case, even if it has no jurisdiction there, and won. So because the argument, and my picture was in the Bologna papers, so that shows that even if without jurisdiction, the legal argument has weight and goes
Absolutely.
it goes international. So.
Absolutely. I mean, you can, if you have nothing to cite that's like in your own jurisdiction, of course you would go to another court that has decided this. And so it really does have the power to spread around the world.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of spreading around the world, you gave us a couple examples right now, but I would love it if you could go a bit more into how this outcome works in the real world, because presumably it doesn't mean that everyone has to accommodate anything a vegan asks for. At least in your view, what is the boundary between legitimate accommodation and what will be seen as overreach, especially for vegans working inside non-vegan institutions?
Yes, what this law does is a level up, puts vegans at the same level than any other protected class, any other protected groups or people. So it doesn't give you more power than anybody else. It doesn't give you less power either. That means if somebody discriminates against you for being a vegan, meaning treating the non-vegan members of the company differently, giving them, for instance, free food where you have to pay for it, or giving them free equipment, goods, for instance, while you have to pay for it, that now is unlawful in the UK. In fact, what happens immediately after my case was successful was that the fire brigade, the British fire brigade, issue automatically vegan leather boots to the vegan firefighters. Kind of the next week. Up to that point, everybody was fighting and trying to, it kind of went automatically. Everybody that is vegan that can get it as anybody else, otherwise will be discrimination. Immediately I got calls and messages from people saying, look, I've been fighting for having soya milk in my company for 10 years, and now next day after your case, I got it on the fridge. Or my children are going to school, they're vegan, but they're not providing them vegan meals. But now, after your case, they just did it straight away. Even some bizarre cases, the Freemasons in Scotland, that the Freemasons, they do lots of rituals.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
changed some of the leather components of the rituals into non-leather versions to allow vegans to become Freemasons after centuries of having the same thing. They are really obsessed with tradition, and yet they change it. So it was quite widespread, the effect. Often things they don't make headlines, but they are real changes in real lives on people.